we're working through all of these different time zones and all of these different points of contact. And what has been so beneficial was creating more of a task information hub type board, but it has been such a game changer.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Growth Mentors, the podcast where we share snackable growth hacks, strategies, and best practices in how to drive maximum marketing impact and grow your bottom line. I'm your host, Matt LeBlanc, and today we're going to be talking about Monday.com and how to use it to increase efficiency and productivity in your digital marketing efforts. We're going to talk through some features, some actionable strategies, and here to help us do it is the Senior Project Manager at Jump 450, Morgan Scheib. How you doing, Morgan?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Thank you so much for being here. Why don't we just jump right in? So talk to me about efficiency and productivity with Monday.com. How can Monday sort of improve a marketing team's efficiency?
I would say any team that is using Monday.com is usually just way more structured, has way more stability, quicker turnaround times. I think that there's a lot of ways to measure what the efficiency improvements are. So like being able to see like the bandwidth of everybody, because you can see how many tasks that they have on their plate at one time. So like some people have like 4 reports due, and I only know about the reports I assigned them, but there's this whole other workload that they have. And Monday does a great job at kind of building out dashboards as well, that you can see like, okay, this person has a bunch of things due, but then next week's a lighter week. Like, how can we rearrange the schedule so that we're staying within kind of that work hour, those work days, so that people can get things done on time and then have room for things that come up that are like urgent and we can pivot.
Gotcha. So are there any like sort of key features that Monday has that sort of like allow you to do this best? You talked about like dashboards, and I know there are different filters and things that you can do like that, but why don't you take us into the weeds a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I love a good filtered view. I like an overall view as well, but I like getting so granular with the view and depending on kind of what you're looking for that day. So if I'm looking for everything that I have due this week, Monday also does like color coordinating things where like I can assign a color to have it conditionally format to yellow if I have it due this week, or if I miss something and it's overdue, it's going to mark itself as red. So there's a bunch of different views that you can do and personalize it to the person. I think it's really good from a manager standpoint as well, because you can see and create views of like what your team is working on, or kind of your client load, see what you have going on for all of your other clients. I also think it's a good way to inspire new ideas and ways of working, because you can see from another account that they're working on this and it's like, oh, would that work here? So I think there's a lot of collaboration that can be done, as well as like breaking out what's important to you to actually get things done and be productive.
Can you take me through like maybe a common scenario? You're a project manager, so you're talking to a lot of creative folks, media buyers. You're also using Monday, I think, to share creative with clients sometimes too. Is that true?
Yes.
So can you take me through kind of like maybe a common scenario of like, or maybe a specific instance of a messy situation and sort of like how you were able to use Monday to kind of like keep things running efficiently?
Yeah. I think you mentioned how we use it with our clients as well. I think that that is a big part into what makes an account run smoothly. So we use it in a couple different ways with one of my energy clients. They have teams that are in different parts of the country. They have teams over in Germany. They have teams in Australia. So it's like we're working through all of these different time zones and all of these different points of contact. There's a ton of people involved. And what has been so beneficial but wasn't implemented when we first started the account was creating more of a task information hub type board where we can give updates in real time for us, but then when they get online or if there's any overlap, we can align on kind of what those items are.
Hmm.
But it has been such a game changer of keeping everything organized and everybody on the same page, because I don't need to send an email out to everybody, because then they
Yeah.
just ignore all my emails because they're like, you send me information that doesn't pertain to me. But we have it broken out now by region and the tasks that we're working on for them. So we can give updates. I can give updates from a project standpoint. The media buyers can give updates. We have a creative board that they can give updates. And again, going back to that like collaboration to see what we're working on for different regions and the different initiatives, it
Hmm.
can kind of inspire like, oh, we're doing this for North America. Would this make sense for your region? So I think it's just a good way and a good tool to use to keep everybody on the same page and moving forward.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I asked about that actually, because I think that when I've used Monday.com to sort of work with clients before, I was really using it. I worked as a creative director, and so I was really using it to sort of like share creative assets for creative approvals. You're talking about using it for a lot of different areas. When you're saying that you're able to, update them on certain tasks and things that are going on, are those showing up in Monday in the form of pulses?
Yep. So we'll
Okay.
do different line items. And we've kind of played around with it a little bit and how you can do it, creating subtasks under those items for each week, or if there's like certain optimizations that we're going to be doing. And we talk about, let's make those sub items under optimizations just to keep everything super organized.
Hmm.
Another great thing about Monday is all of the different labels and statuses that you can put on things, and you can make it so colorful. So it's
Yeah.
very easy to, again, sort and filter to create different views. But I also think it's a lot easier to digest when things are lined out in different pulses. They have the different labels and whatnot on them, so that I don't have to go through digging each and every one or searching or whatever. I know what I'm looking for because it's color coded, filtered views, things like that.
Yeah, and it's also occurring to me that using Monday to sort of like track items with clients, it seems like this would also probably help out a lot in terms of like you're probably sharing a lot of that stuff instead of doing it in a meeting, instead of sending things through Slack where they're going to get lost.
Mhm.
It really sort of keeps everything super organized and actionable. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And I think too, one thing that I've noticed a lot is when new point of contacts come onto client accounts, we have to dig up old information or be like, oh, where was that link? Where was this?
Right.
And now with this process, as new people are coming on, all the information is already tracked and in there. So, I mean, I feel like that is a big efficiency point as well, of like so much of working in marketing is like catching people up to speed and like, what did we do last year? And it's like, oh, where was that deck? Let me dig into it. Which slide was it? But then here it's like, okay, well, I know that we had a task for that. Let me just go to the task. The link is going to be in there. The notes are going to be in there. So I think it's a good way to not have to always be looking back, but having that all as reference. And I think with that as well, it brings a lot of trust into the relationship with clients because we're very transparent as to what we're doing. So then again, there's less like daily syncs that we need to have or daily updates to the client because they see what we're working on because we're documenting it.
Yeah. And Morgan, forgive my ignorance, I guess, on this, but I know that, at Jump, we use sort of auto IDs,
Yep.
which show up on the pulses. I know that's specific to us, and like that can be really helpful on Monday if you're looking for like an old item or something like that, or just even sharing something. If you have that auto ID, it's very searchable in Monday to be able to go and look for exactly what you're trying to find. Is that something that's super specific to us? Or do you feel like this is something that other people are also utilizing in Monday?
I would say that it's not a common use, but I think it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a huge key differentiator when in productivity, because if I'm looking for creative that was passed over to the client, or we put it in a deck and they're asking about that specific piece of creative,
Hmm.
I don't know what that's named. I
Right.
don't know what they uploaded into the platform as. I can just search that ID in our documents, in Monday, in Slack, all of these different places, or even in Frame that we use, and it's all going to be there. So I think it creates unity across different platforms that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to sort of wrap up this section, maybe we can talk through some features to help streamline your workflow management in Monday. Can we touch on some specific features here?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the big things is I always like to start with a template because there are people that were paid and trained and are good at building out these templates. But obviously, it's never a one size fits all. We don't even see that across the agency of like one size fits all for each client or each project manager. But if we have a base of what works, we can customize from there. So those customizable templates of like, I want to put in more statuses or different statuses than what this other client is using. Maybe this client has legal that needs to review things and the other client doesn't. Or there's additional approvers that need to pass things through. So I think making the boards customizable to whatever your needs are for your accounts, internally, what have you. Because I also think with that is it creates familiarity so that the team isn't like, oh my gosh, this is a different board. I don't know what I'm doing, which again helps increase productivity.
Absolutely. So customizable templates.
Yep.
I'm just going to go through a couple of items that I have here and maybe you can, shoot some thoughts out here.
Yep.
Real-time collaboration tools.
Yeah, so there's different boards or views that you can add in to create like more of that collaboration where it's kind of like a whiteboard session where you can fill it in. People can add in their notes. There's like post-it features. So there's different collaboration ways that like you don't have to be necessarily on a meeting, or if you are on a meeting, you don't have to be passing a link through from this different sheet or this different workbook because you're always using Monday, and then it can easily be translated into pulses straight from there.
I see. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I actually have not utilized that feature in Monday myself. Yeah. Task delegation and tracking. I think we talked about editorial calendar planning. Yeah, there are different views that you can use in Monday, right?
Yes. I love the calendar planning for brands that are using a lot of promos. So a lot of our e-commerce brands are using a lot of promos, whether it's like flash sales or even just different campaigns that they're running internally that we're going to build creative or do campaigns around that are just outside of Evergreen. It's just so good to be able to have that view and start planning ahead. There was also an account that I worked on in the higher ed space where we were working on a bunch of different programs. So they were all kind of running on their own schedule with reports that were due. So seeing that calendar planned out of like who needs to be doing what in a view of like, okay, I know I'm going to have all of these due today. I think it's just better to know what's coming down the road than just that like view of like the lists of tasks.
Absolutely. No, that is super helpful. I can imagine. File management and asset libraries. This is another one that I don't think that I've actually touched on myself.
So I like to think of this. I mean, obviously this is a big part for creative. I wouldn't say it's super necessary for a lot of documents to live into monday.com.
Right.
But I think it's a great way to collect where those different places live into like some sort of hub. So like when we do creative assets and we're handing those over to clients, that's kind of like file management and asset libraries of like, this is what we're showing you and this is where it lives, but it's going to be in this collective spot so we all have eyes on it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we do use a lot of other platforms, but I was going to say I have never really like housed assets in Monday.
Yeah, I know some teams do with their creative. Instead of like uploading it to Frame or G Drive or something, they'll upload it there. So then it's right there, I guess. But I think we just are structured a little bit different.
And then what about automated reporting?
Oh, I love some good automations. This kind of goes back to those one bandwidth of like seeing what you have on your plate and what you have coming up. I think this is also pretty helpful. These automated reports for like when you're going out of office, you can see kind of what your coverage needs are going to be. Again, this is another thing that's customizable. Like I need to see the information that I need to see. And maybe you have somebody who doesn't love going into Monday, but they can be sent these automated reports to know what's happening.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Morgan, anything else that you wanted to touch on with efficiency or productivity?
Nothing that comes to mind.
That's great. That was all that I sort of had on my list here, but I know that we also wanted to touch on integration and versatility in Monday.com as well.
Yes, this is something that I am actually very excited to talk about. The automations that I've really been focusing on the last year, I would say, are really to help me and the rest of the team not have to be in the weeds as much. And I think one of the big parts as well is not have to be such a roadblock and making sure everybody is like getting the information or whatnot. There are so many good automation tools. I know we use Slack to communicate internally and externally. So an example I have here is creative team will mark creative that it's ready for review, ready to be sent to client. I have set up an automation from Monday that they're going to alert me in Slack that that is ready to go. And it lets me click back into Monday. And then I can go to the client board, mark it as client review, and then it has an automation that sends it to the client that it's ready to review and tags them. So those types of automations where it's pretty simple when you go set it up, it is such a time saver.
Yeah, wow. So it's actually messaging the client for you and tagging them, doing the whole thing. That is news to me, because that little part of the day of just simply sending someone a message, this is ready, and tagging them, you sort of add it up over all of the days and you're like, I do this for hours.
Yeah, and I think it's good too because creative isn't always ready at the same time.
Right.
And so like as things are coming in, it's going to tag, again, it's like that cycle. And then when the client also reviews it, and if it's approved, we tag the buyers back into our Slack channel of like, this is ready to go, you can launch this, or into revisions, then it tags the creative PM and the CD to be like, okay, they have feedback on that. So then they know as well and can plan out edits and whatnot with the motion graphic directors.
Wow. So it's really kind of tightening up a lot of that like communication and back and forth that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Do you think that that's probably the biggest integration that we use with Monday is through Slack?
Yes and no. I think that there's a lot of different integrations for different team members. So like from a project management standpoint, I love that it integrates with Slack. Like I can set up those types of automations, but then I think there's another part of it where I know something that our team was working on was getting that creative feedback and that creative data to know kind of what's performing and what's not without having to go digging for it. So I know there's been like Tableau and reporting performance automations that have gone back into our boards. Obviously Zapier will connect to it and do another thing. One of my clients, we were working with a very large team. This is an e-commerce client. And they had a lot of different people that wanted a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. And so trying to keep up with all of those requests was becoming impossible. So what we did was we created a Google form that filled out the necessary information, created an integration with Zapier to then, when that form was filled out, it's going to tag us in Slack, but it's also going to create an item into Monday. Tag the brands that we're using, what platform it's for, who it's for, and that due date, and then link to that form of where it's filled out.
Wow.
It did it all automatically. That's another way of like using the different platforms that you have into each other so it's more of a seamless workflow, and also then you get buy-in and what works for all of these different people.
Morgan, anything else that you just wanted to end on here? So much great and actionable information that you've shared with us today.
Yeah, I think one of the things when you're using Monday, I know I talked about it, it's not a one size fits all, but it's also just because the media team's doing something like this right now, or we're doing something a certain way for the creative, doesn't mean that's how it's going to be forever. I think one thing that I've learned a lot is this is a work in progress forever. There's always going to be a new status to be added, maybe something to be taken away. We've added new groups to keep things organized within a Monday board, new automations, even with the addition of new team members and different ways that they've utilized it. So I think really leaning into everything that Monday has to offer to figure out what works best for you, but to not be afraid to make those changes to really increase efficiency, utilize the automation, the AI type tools to really just stay up to speed with everything else that you have going on in your agency.
Excellent. Morgan, thank you so much for the talk today. This is Morgan Scheib, the Senior Project Manager at Jump 450. And if you are listening and you are interested in exploding your own digital growth, you can get in touch with Jump 450 in the link below in the description. That is www.jump450.com. And don't forget to subscribe for more weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.